Your Holiness, good morning. I noticed this morning you are wearing your travel shoes. Yes. We are preparing now, all of us, many of us, to take our leave. Our hearts are full as we prepare to say our farewells. They're full of wonder and gratitude for all that we have experienced here in this magnificent place of learning with these extraordinary scholars and colleagues. In the fullness of time, perhaps we will begin to understand how we have been transformed. I believe we have, all of us, individually and collectively. For now, it remains simply to express as best we can our deep gratitude, first to Your Holiness for convening us in this extraordinary way. Secondly, to one another for arriving so fully and participating so deeply together. And also to give voice in the best ways we can at this early moment to our aspirations emanating from this experience, aspirations for ourselves and our own growth, transformation, development, aspirations for our work across many dimensions, aspirations for our world. We thank you from our hearts for enabling us to have this time. So we begin, as I think you know, with words from our host, Geshe Lakdor, the director of the Library of Tibetan Works and Archives, our co-host with Your Holiness of this extraordinary gathering, the individual and the organization that has played such an important and fundamental role in bringing the possibility of science education for the monastic community to life as we see it now today. So Geshe Lakdor, with our deepest congratulations, admiration, appreciation, we ask you to say a few words.
Your Holiness, His Eminence Contemplative Rinpoche, Shajang Rinpoche, the abbots and abbot emeritus, the scientists and presenters, and all the participants from the rest of the world. I want to briefly summarize the events of these past several days. I would like to also present the implementation of the science education in the monastic institutions. I would also like to briefly tell the history of the development of these programs. And finally, I would like to briefly talk about the future implementation of this science education program. To give you a background, history, science and Buddhism, the dialogue between science and Buddhism, in brief, is to strive to promote happiness of human beings and sentient beings, and to alleviate their suffering. The very term science here is means knowledge, and it is clear that lack of knowledge leads to problems, and the more knowledge we gain, the more we were able to alleviate suffering. And even in Buddhist, ignorance is considered as the root of all the problems and sufferings. Therefore, it's necessary to generate an insight and understanding into the nature of the world in order to alleviate and free oneself from suffering. So in that regard, both have a common goal. So as of now, there are so many programs that have been initiated, and particularly this conference is the 26th one. Irrespective of what initiatives we initiate, the knowledge that we generate through studies and researches should not be just should not remain in the literature, but should be disseminated in the general population and learn about various means of alleviating suffering. In Buddhism, the most important, although there are so many people who claim to be Buddhists, many do not know the actual sort of meaning of Buddhism. And even in the scientific community and in the Western world, there are people who are really expert and know profoundly the happenings and the research results and so on. The general population have no access, or general population doesn't know much about these studies. Only thing that they have access to are the results, the technological results that arise from these studies. So this is a reality. Therefore, with this reality in mind, we try to develop these programs to promote the insights and understanding to the general population. In particular, the science education program in the monastic institutions started about 10 years ago, when His Holiness advised or instructed the Library of Tibetan Works to start this program. Initially, Amcho Rinpoche, the previous director, during his term, he started the program. When I came to the library in 2005, there were about 50 students who were engaged, monastic students who were studying science. Now, in order to expand the program, we selected 30 of the better students and started a program to increase their knowledge, scientific knowledge. So that is the second phase. Also, in order to give the science education in the monastic institutions, we need the literatures in Tibetan, and we also there is a strong need for monastic teachers who can teach science. So there are 6 students studying at Emory, and they are about to complete their program, and we have another batch that will go to Emory next year. And the more detailed plan will be presented by Geshe Lobsang Tinzila. Then in 1999, His Holiness instructed us to do, and in 2000 we started the program. And then 1 year later, the Seka Family Foundation got involved in this initiative. Although there are many foundations and individuals who support these kind of programs, Sega Family Foundation has remained consistent in their support. Now, the Emory Tibet Science Initiative is primarily meant to train monastic teachers and develop curriculum and textbooks. So for that, we selected about 90 students, monastic students, and we organized a yearly summer program for the last 5 years. and one thing that we kept in mind in developing this program is to involve the monastic students from all the different schools of Tibetan Buddhism. So we have students from 24 different monasteries and several nunneries. And of those 90 students, they were sort of classified into two cohorts. And the first cohort graduated last year, and His Holiness presented the diploma to the students. And the second cohort will graduate next year. So, Emory Tibet Science Initiative and Sega Family Foundation Science for Monks. With these two initiatives, we have every year 2 workshops for the science monastic. And although we have these programs every year, in order to make the science education more sustainable, we need to have better trained students. So therefore, in 2012, we started a science leadership program where the monastic students who have received scientific science education for several years were assembled and trained as a science leaders. And for more information, please visit our website and the brochure in which we have given detailed information. Now, everyone knows the purpose of learning science, especially in the monastic institutions. Now, studying science is, there are 2 approaches for teaching science. One, we can select some better students and then, provide them the science education. But the second approach is to create awareness and within the general monastic institution about the scientific insights and so on. So we have masters who say that those to whom everything appears as examples has so many instructions that they can take. So this creating this general awareness within the monastic community is so important. For instance, if we were to tell someone about apple, we can show it to that person and then, describe it. But there's another approach where we ask them to eat the apple, taste it, and smell it, and that the second way creates more intimate knowledge. Then particularly since we are all engaged in trying to alleviate others' suffering and benefit others, to involve oneself more intimately will create a better sort of insight and opportunity to help others. Now, although the meditational practices are studied in the monastic institution, the scientists are now describing these techniques and practices in more detail, which often surprise us. So therefore, it's not sufficient to say that there are many in the monastic communities who do meditation, but rather we should have every sort of individual monks engaging in meditational practices and contemplative practices, so that they know these through their own experiences. So to promote the positive qualities, the positive minds, it's not sufficient to study about them and study from the text. Instead, to put them in practice would create a more intimate sort of knowledge of these. Similarly, in Tibetan Buddhist culture, everyone has this phrase on their lip, all mother sentient beings. So this phrase that we utter every day, if we look at the general sort of condition of the world right now, it's very so this practice of thinking about mother sentient being is there in the Tibetan culture for a long time. So in respect to health or ecology and environment, there is potential that we can derive from this outlook that we have. Um, the uh, in the Western culture, in the scientific culture, there is a very wide practice of organizing and creating programs that will benefit the community. So, irrespective of how efficient these may be, there is this practice of initiating so many programs, and the Western culture has trained itself in organizing these, and were very successful. So these we can learn from something we can learn from them. Mm. And then to give another example, if we look at the healthcare, there is general lack of understanding of how diseases are occurring and so on. Although I'm not based here, we have monks who, for many years, studied strenuously, and when they were about to graduate and get a Geshe degree, they because of their lack of attention to their healthcare, they often, many students become sick, and yeah. So this is a huge sort of problem that is going on in the monastic communities. So these we can definitely alleviate by gaining more understanding and more insight about healthcare and so on. And then the world is undergoing so much change, and we have to live in this world that is constantly changing, and we need to adapt to this new condition, this present reality. His Holiness has often stated that that many amongst the Tibetan who would visit the monasteries and temples and just enjoy the architecture, and does not pay any attention to the rich sort of tradition that is within the monastic community. So there is a need to adapt oneself to the present condition, and be more aware of the present condition, and learn about science and so on. Then in regards to the actual implementation of the science program, last year we have a big Gelu conference at which a resolution was passed about actually adding the science curriculum to the monastic curriculum. Now, how we would implement the addition of the new curriculum, science curriculum, to the monastic academic institutions. we are initially going to start these in the three major monasteries, primarily for the Gelug monks in the Gelug tradition. But in order to provide the same educational opportunity to other other schools, we will organize one summer program in Dharamsala. As for the student that we are going to select for this science education program, the minimum requirement is at least 10 years of monastic education. So the monastics that we select for our program have 10 years, at least 10 years of monastic education. And the reason why we select that is we want the students to have at least a solid base, solid foundation before they before they engage in a different sort of curriculum. And on the other hand, we feel that monastic students with a good understanding of Buddhism and Buddhist philosophy will be able to be more helpful, would be able to engage better in dialogue with their teachers in terms of the philosophy and their scientific understanding. Even though we have been giving this science education for these many years, we have students who are themselves great scholars who have engaged in these in all of these programs. So it is clear that their own study has not suffered because of them taking interest in science. And it is clear that they are receiving benefits, because if they don't see any benefits in studying science, they will not come back again and again. Then there is a general attitude that when we initiate programs such as science education, they may feel that they don't have any time, they cannot spare any time. However, in reality, they have all these minor things, trivial things that they find time to engage in. So this attitude should be rectified. So these initiatives are extremely important, are extremely significant. When Bobby Secker first asked His Holiness that I would like to help and support the Tibetan community, and what His Holiness would advise him to give his support to, His Holiness right away said that support the science education, and he asked His Holiness in what time he expects a concrete sort of result from such science education program, and His Holiness said that in 100 years. So these initiatives should not depend on one or two individuals. Rather, it should be institutionalized, so that as the individuals who are involved in this program, it does not depend on individuals, rather should be institutionalized, so that we can continue this work. So we have already passed a resolution, and we cannot now step back. We have to go forward. So far, the abbots and other administrators have been very supportive to this initiative, and we will continue to strive to make this program as successful as possible.
So much to learn. You have said, you have spoken some of the things you have to learn from us, Geshe Lakdor, but we have much to learn from you. Next, we will hear from Geshe Lobsang Tanzin Negi, Director of the Emory-Tibet Partnership and of the Science for Monks initiative there. He will speak to the monastic community in Tibetan, in their language, but he has slides in English for us to follow. Geshe Lobsang,
how do I start there?
I will start you.
Those the nyinting the engine la yor pekena yoris tamshizo peketo na haris Your Holiness, Your Eminence Gandhin Rinpoche, the two designated as successors to the Gandhin throne, venerables and incarnate lamas, venerable Sangha, esteemed scientists and scholars, and honored guests who have all gathered from all parts of the world, and to all those who have supported this project for long. To all of you, I, on behalf of Emory University and on behalf of Emory Tibet Science Initiative, would like to greet you all. It is my great honor to stand before you today to share the details of the upcoming implementation phase of the Emory Tibet Science Initiative. I find it particularly auspicious that we are making this presentation in this august prayer hall of Drepung Monastery on this occasion. For, as I recall, it was in this very location in 1986 during a seminar on Tantra that Your Holiness informed the monastic gathering present of the need for them to attend to the theories and principles of modern science. I clearly recall that. At the same time, as you were impressing on us the importance of paying attention to modern science, Your Holiness, you were offering encouragement to modern scientists to engage and investigate the Buddhist tradition and its practices. In 1987, Your Holiness initiated formal dialogues with modern scientists by co-founding the Mind and Life Institute. And it's still going on. There is hardly any need for me to elaborate on the crucial role this collaboration played in creating and advancing the field of contemplative neuroscience. This historic conference, as such a renowned seat of monastic learning, is evidence of the remarkable success of your far-sighted vision. As Geshe Lakdor earlier mentioned, as early as 2000, Your Holiness introduced modern science education for the Tibetan monastics in the form of Science for the Monks and Science Meets Dharma, two programs that offered workshops and courses in basic science for select students, as Geshe Lakdor has just shared with us. Then, to ensure that science would become sufficiently integrated into the core curriculum of the Tibetan monasteries and nunneries, Your Holiness entrusted Emory University with the task of collaborating with the Library of Tibetan Works and Archives to develop and implement a comprehensive science program for monastics. Through this two-pronged approach of encouraging each side to study and explore the other, it's clear that Your Holiness laid the foundation for a strong, meaningful convergence of science and spirituality to see the benefits that this would bring for humanity, for improving the conditions of our lives in health, education, and working towards peaceful societies, represents a foresight that was far ahead of its time, and an expansive wisdom that perhaps only future generations will truly know how to appreciate when they reap the rewards of the seeds that you planted long time ago and have nurtured carefully ever since. I know that we at Emory University, from the president on down throughout the institution, considered it a tremendous opportunity and a great honor that Your Holiness entrusted us with this task. Your acceptance of Emory's offer to join as its faculty as Presidential Distinguished Professor, your first such appointment in the West, illustrated to all the importance that Your Holiness gives to this partnership and the science and to this science initiative. At this crucial juncture, we were just about ready to implement the ETSI curriculum in the major Drepung Monastery seats of learning beginning in 2014. What I would like to present today for this esteemed monastic community is the nature and scope of ETSI, and in particular its coming implementation phase. The progression of ETSI has three major phases: planning, development, and implementation. From 2006 to 2007, we engaged in the planning phase. During this time, the ETSI Science Faculty, under Your Holiness' guidance and in consultation with such esteemed scholars as Geshe Topten Chimbala, Geshe Lautola, Dr. Ellen Wallace, and Dr. George Dreyfus, engaged in brainstorming on the nature of the science education program, what its constant contents would be, how long the program should be, which discipline to include, and various other practical and conceptual matters. The outcome of this was the collective decision to create a 5-year-long bilingual program in physics, neuroscience, and biology. The development phase, which took place over the next 6 years, included focusing on several main priorities. The first was to create science materials in bilingual form that were specially catered to a monastic audience in each of the three main scientific disciplines. The second task was organizing annual 6-week summer intensives to pilot the curriculum. These annual intensives were taught by 16 Emory faculty to 2 monastic cohorts, the first of which started in 2008 and the second in 2009. This select group of 91 students was drawn from 22 institutions representing all schools of Tibetan Buddhism. We are very delighted that the first cohort graduated in June 2012 and the second will graduate in June of this year, 2013. As the development phase now draws to a successful close, we are poised to implement the science curriculum in the major monastic seats of learning in many respects, logistically, financially, and in terms of resources, personnel, and time. This represents the most challenging phase of the ETSI. For it to be successful, it will require careful planning, proper pedagogical design, and adequate resources. For the last 600 years or so, the Drepung Monastery universities have followed a standard academic program involving the study of the 5 great treatises with a specific academic annual calendar. It's therefore a challenge to figure out how to add a new subject in the form of modern science to this centuries-old system without compromising its integrity. Evaluating the curriculum during the development phase of ETSI, the faculty and students collectively realized the need for an introductory year of science in addition to the 5-year curriculum. Thus, the final curriculum will be taught in 6-year cycles. This first year will include a section on the philosophy of science and will also introduce students to the 3 main disciplines of neuroscience, biology, and physics using textbooks written in the traditional style of monastic dialectics, making them suitable for use in debate. The introductory texts in the 3 disciplines are being composed by the 6 Tenzin Gyatso science scholar monks who are currently completing their 3 years of science education at Emory University. We are happy to present to Your Holiness a simple example from each of these volumes. We have also distributed these chapters to members of the monastic communities here for their collective review and comments. Now that the length of the program has been finalized, it is necessary for us to determine at what stage of the monastic academic program the science curriculum should be introduced, and also when during the year to offer it. With regard to the first concern, the 6th annual meeting of the Gelug International Foundation held in August 2012 and presided over by His Eminence Gyabje Ganden Rinpoche, they adopted a unanimous resolution to introduce the 6-year science curriculum in the Gelug monastic universities. This august body determined that the first 4 years of the curriculum would be taught to coincide with the Abhidhamma or Vinaya years of monastic study, and the final 2 years of the curriculum would coincide with the first and second years of the Karam level of the Gelug board exam. With regard to the second concern, namely during which part of the year to teach the curriculum, it should be noted that it is difficult to teach the program year-round, at least in the near future. This is principally because the program will depend on bringing an international group of faculty, primarily from the West, until indigenous monastic teachers are trained. And such faculty members will only have a long enough period of availability during the summer months. The Gelug leadership therefore discussed the need to carve out a period of 4 to 6 weeks during the summer, but a particular time has not yet been determined. For science education to take root in Tibetan monastic education, we must take steps to ensure its long-term sustainability. A first step towards this is creating high-quality science textbooks in bilingual editions. 16 such textbooks, plus the 3 introductory level texts written in the style of monastic dialectics, will constitute the core text for the 6-year science curriculum. Some of these texts, which are produced on the basis of the materials prepared for the development phase, have already been revised and published, and others will appear in the coming months and years. The textbook will require a large number of expert faculty to teach the material, and we, in collaboration with the Library of Tibetan Works and Archives and with the kind support of the Mind and Life Institute, will make every effort to supply an adequate number of core international science faculty members to teach at the 3 monastic universities of Drepung Monastery and Ganden during this implementation phase of the program. The long-term sustainability of this program, however, will ultimately depend upon the training of indigenous monastic science teachers. Recognizing this need, Emory and the Tibetan Library have initiated a teacher training program to cultivate future teachers. In 2010, with generous support from the Dalai Lama Trust, 6 monks began a 3-year training at Emory University as Tenzin Gyatso science scholars. Our plan is to produce 30 more Tenzin Gyatso science scholars as qualified science teachers over the course of the next 10 years. Eventually, these monastic teachers will enable us to hand over the bulk of the teaching of the science curriculum to the monastic institutions, thereby making it self-sustaining into the distant future. Furthermore, to ensure the quality of the program, the Library of Tibetan Works and Archives and Emory will work in conjunction with the monastic leadership to create a standardized examination and evaluation system. To enable the science courses to be taught in Tibetan, the team of translators at Emory University and the Library of Tibetan Works and Archives will continue to interpret during the summer intensives and translate the course and supplementary texts. Emory and Library will also continue to work together to hold science translation conferences to facilitate this work and to establish standardization of the necessary science terminology in Tibetan. Furthermore, as science education often relies on learning hands-on skills that can only be acquired in a properly equipped laboratory, it will be essential for the individual monasteries and nunneries to establish small labs equipped with computers, microscopes, and other tools needed for basic science learning in the long run. In the long run, however, establishing a science center at a centralized location such as Bangalore that can offer lab-based workshops would prove to be an invaluable resource for the continued success and flourishing of this program. These extended science programs will bring groups of science educators and researchers to these illustrious monastic centers of learning on a regular basis, presenting a perfect opportunity for dialogue that can lay the foundation for future scientific collaboration. With its vast and profound understanding of the workings of mind and emotions, as well as a most sophisticated knowledge of how to cultivate our spiritual qualities, the Tibetan tradition has much to offer this world today. Modern science, likewise, with its ever-expanding body of mind, of knowledge that is unlocking the nature and complex workings of the most microscopic entities of the most macroscopic aspects of physical world, has exceptional potentials to contribute to human flourishing. These two great traditions, each of which holds such promise for the future of our world, can only benefit and learn from each other, and the effects that mutual enrichment will be far-reaching indeed. Taking this opportunity, I want to thank all those who have supported this project from so long time, more particularly to the science faculty members who have engaged in teaching in these scholars. And likewise, I request all of them to please continue such support that we utterly need. Thus, I believe is the vision behind His Holiness's commitment to forge collaboration between science and spirituality as a means of promoting genuine peace and human flourishing. As human beings who all share in this planet and its fate, we are honored to be a part of such an inspiring and visionary project. And for those of us, your humble students in the Buddhist community, being able to play a small role towards realizing the benevolent vision of Your Holiness, our beloved Master, is also the ultimate offering we can present to our beloved spiritual teacher. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Geshe Labdor. Inspiring story. Your Holiness, it's I need to take that from Your Holiness, we now invite you, if you wish, to address your community with any further thoughts you would like them to have of your vision for this initiative, for this work. And then when you are finished with that, Arthur, our friend Arthur, would like a chance to thank you.
So for the last few days, the nature of this conference has been something So during the last few days, we had this conference with the scientists and the scholars, and the nature of this meeting, conference, which has been going on for the last nearly 30 years, 26 years, this is the 26th conference. The difference is the place, regarding the place itself first. It's an historical place where for hundreds of years now the study of classic Buddhist philosophical literature has been going on, and also it is the monastery of the Dalai Lamas, since the third Dalai Lama. And then the participants have been people who are well educated in science and have interest in science. So a huge number of students from these monastic institutions have participated this time with great enthusiasm, and so as a sign of their enthusiasm and interest, it was reflected. Of course, I have not been during the question and answer sessions, but I have heard what happens during the question and answer sessions, and some of the scientists also, I asked them, and they were very pleased. And that the students here asked many good questions. So it has been a very meaningful conference, and I'm very glad for that. And so the local monastic the organizers have dedicated themselves. I would like to thank them. And Gardin Rinpoche presided over, and then also many senior monks and scholars have attended these conferences. Although you are aged, you're old, but you took great enthusiasm. So I would like to thank you, and then I would like to thank the students also who have taken participated in this. And then there are school children also, who took part in this conference. I thank you all. And particularly the scientists and scholars, many of you are my long-time friends. We are familiar to each other, not only in terms of our faces, but we also know each other's minds well, and so we are good friends. Although you are becoming older, but your dedication and determination is really great, And regarding you, Arthur, you have also talked about even doing something in the next year, next life as well. And so for many years we have known each other. And then also there are some new participants during this conference. And so during these last few days, you have really sincerely and been very frank with each other. And this is needed when you actually search for the truth. And so it's very important to do investigation. So you did that. It was very good. And the scientists, the senior scientists, as well as the junior ones, to all of you. You have also actually the experience of your own field of research, and you made your presentations with full confidence. I thank you all. So I've said this before. For many years ago, in the beginning, it was a personal initiative. So even in my childhood, I always thought about the reasons behind why things are happening. And as a child, when I received toys which could be run by using some key and also some electrical mechanical things, when I received them, I played with them. But then I always became inquisitive about what actually the mechanism is for these toys. And therefore, since my childhood, I always was interested to check why things are happening this way or that way. And especially after studying Buddhist epistemological text called the Commentary on the Valid Cognition. And on the one hand, it made me very skeptical and thinking to know why such and such things are happening. And so because epistemological and logical texts teach about using different reasonings and logic to find out about why things are, and therefore this has helped me a lot to examine things a lot. And in science, the science is best in terms of explaining what's happening in the material world. So in our text, we talk about the inner world of sentient beings and outer world of the environment. The purpose of our study of establishing the reality and truth is for nirvana and omniscience. But in science, that's not the case. They focus more on the matter and material things. And so to expand regarding physics, for example, physics, it is very explained in great detail in modern science. And so if we know, this is something we need to know, it's part of knowledge, and we have to know about it. And therefore I grew interest in science. So by taking interest gradually, I also felt quite proud of how in our own tradition we do analysis of things, examination of things, and then accept what is found to be truth through reason. And so the way the sciences try to find the reality and truth, know reality and truth, and Buddhist way of doing that is different. But then both are skeptical about the things, and then we go into investigation. And in this way, because I find some kind of a confidence in these matters, I thought that it's not only, it's not satisfying just that I know about these things, which I found in science. Then I wished to actually share it with the other people. So Nagarjuna, in his Bodhicitta Vivarana, commentary on the awakening mind, talks about he deals with, he explains the some verses, lines from Gohesamaja Tantra, and then he, when explaining the text, this verse, then he goes through the different philosophical traditions of India, non-Buddhist as well as Buddhist traditions. And also Bhaviveka does the same kind of examination and argumentations against the non-Buddhist traditions, and also particularly Chandarakshita, who was kind to the Tibetans in establishing Buddhism. He uses lots of logic in his Tatuv Samgraha, the compendium of realities. So in order to reject someone's position, we have to first know them. And so these masters have not just left aside, saying that, oh, these are just not non-Buddhist positions and thoughts, but they have actually. And in the case of Dharmakirti, we read in his story that he went to some non-Buddhist teacher to learn about their secrets, and he faced a lot of problems knowing them because the teacher was not sharing them with him. But then, of course, when the Indian masters have actually investigated into the philosophical positions of non-Buddhist traditions in India, and then through that they have made our own position clear. So we had this in our classical text, and then the Western science and other subjects are something that we have not encountered in the past. So, of course, Western science was not there during the times of like masters like Nagarjuna and so forth, but there are some mentions of Master Nagarjuna using gold, making elixir, and then making the gold. And so there was some practice of alchemy in those days. And then he was also a medical practitioner as well. And we talk about the 10 sciences, 5 major and 5 minor subjects. And in the Maitreya's Sublime Continuum, or Sutra Alamkara, it is said that if you are not learned in the 5 sciences, you will not become an omniscient one eventually. And so even in India, there was emphasis on studying the different subjects. And then when it comes to practice of bodhisattvas, as Maitreya says, because there are people and beings are of varieties of mental disposition, therefore, if you don't know the varieties, you don't have varieties of knowledge, then you'll not be able to share that with others who actually come to you and need. I also personally have this experience when people came to me seek some teaching from me, and I didn't know them. I couldn't serve them. And so, which means that we are not able to when we lack the knowledge, that others come to seek from us, then we are not able to serve the intention of the Buddha to serve others. And therefore, we have to know what are said in our classical texts. And so to know the position of others is very helpful also to make our own position firmer. And there are many things that we can learn which are new to us, which we don't find in our classical texts. And therefore, the study of science was started, and I felt that it would be good to start this. So from my own experience, because of gaining some confidence in this, then I made this request. And so in the beginning, of course, there was some people say that science studying science leads you to stray from the reality of the Dharma. And so Amcho Rinpoche, when he was director of the Tibetan library, he came to me and in Gyume Tantric College in Hunsur in 1999 and asked me to give a very forceful advice to the monks, the abbots and of the monasteries to learn, make the monks study science. And so we are not forcing something which is not reasonable. So making a forceful statement means that you use reason to make the points. And so we made things clear, clarified things, and then actually implemented this program of teaching science to monks. And so as Geshe Lhagdorla and Geshe Lobsang Tenzin Negi explained, and also when I discussed with other scholars, through this interaction and exchange between science and Buddhist thought, our experience about consciousness and experience. So actually what I had, this is something that I suggested about 20 years ago, and the results that we have today is something which I didn't expect at that time, something more than that. And so perhaps I'm being too much, but then it has actually made impact on many people, and now we have organized institutions involved in this. And they are now going to spread, expand the Mind and Life has the programs of teaching mindfulness, training of mind in America, North America, and Europe, and people find benefit from it, and therefore so something which is found to be very beneficial, and people take interest in something which is beneficial to them. And so if it has no benefit at all, then people may have curiosity, but gradually their interest will fade away. But because it's being practical, what they are doing is practical and beneficial, therefore more and more people are taking interest in the program. So in the European region and Americas, this dialogue has mostly happened, and then we are thinking of in Japan and India and other places, so this program will spread further. So the monks so even if someone would to have the highest kind of qualification in modern subjects, education who can actually give some contribution is those who have studied logic and philosophy. And so I wish to say something to the school children. When we first established this, the Tibetan settlements, the monastic institutions had, in the beginning, many children from the villages joining the monasteries, but then gradually it seems that there were less and less children joining the monastic institutions, and so people might think that it's a waste of time to join a monastery. To study classical texts. You don't need to be monks and nuns. Of course, there is some benefit, certainly benefits if you become monks and nuns. But even as lay people, you can be learned. And we had such people in the past in Tibet. And so regarding the study of Buddhism, which we have kept intact for the last over 1,000 years, it is very important to take interest. And I urge you to pay more attention and take greater interest in studying Buddhism. So perhaps I may be saying it without much reason, but then I had discussions with many different people from different traditions of Buddhism, like from Burma and Thailand, those who belong to the Theravada Pali tradition. And I have met monks, scholars from these traditions, and I had discussions with them many times. And also I had discussions with Chinese and monks and nuns, and then Koreans, Vietnamese, and Japanese scholars, monks. So having met them and having had discussions with them, I found that the tradition of studying Buddhist literature over a long period of time and intensively, and also especially learning the Buddhist philosophy through logic and reasoning, through debate, is only exists in Tibetan tradition. And then regarding the text of logic and epistemology, we have almost all the texts written by Dharmakirti and Dignaga. In Chinese, it seems there is the translation in the past of the Door to Reason, which is written by Dignaga only. So I have been requesting people to translate the rest of the text written by Dignaga and Dharmakirti. Buddhist text on logic and epistemology. So this is something we can say it's our treasure. So the system of learning Buddhism in Tibetan tradition is using logic, and Madhyamaka argument is, we can say that, I've been saying that perhaps we could say this is the treasure of the world. And so our past generations, ancestors have actually worked so hard to bring this knowledge and kept it. And this is something that we can be proud of. So somebody said earlier during the presentations, so we should not take the tradition that we have as something to be looked at by others as like an entertainment, looking at some kind of a show, but it has to be actually used. So it's very important for us to study these. And as Tibetans, as practitioners and followers of Mayan tradition, we always make this prayer: may all sentient beings have happiness and so forth. So we are used to saying this, which is very precious. We are not disregarding life and not being totally insensitive to life. So when you see in the world there are people being very insensitive to killing and so forth, this is something we find to be very precious. So this is not based on blind faith, but also when you check the working of our mind, when you have a good, warm heart, then it helps others as well as yourself. And when you do something negative, it's not only it harms others, but it's very clear that it harms yourself. And so you can tell this from your personal experience. And therefore, as we pray, may all mother sentient beings, may all sentient beings, our parents, have happiness, and so forth. And then we also say, may all the prayers and aspirations of bodhisattvas be fulfilled. And so they don't pray for their own goodness, for their own good health, and to have victory for themselves. They are not praying for some selfish goal. And so we are following such a tradition where we pray for the benefit of other sentient beings. So this helps oneself as well as society. And so although we are in a very sad situation, but people find our nature, Tibetan nature, to be very honest and warm-hearted. Of course, we have bad people who are dishonest and bullying others, but on the whole, Tibetans are found to be kind and warm-hearted and honest. And so these principles are something which we are worthy of for us to preserve. And so this cannot be done only through knowledge, but for personally, you should think of preserving this culture, and also for the Tibetan, in honor of Tibetans also, we have to think of preserving our tradition. So we have, of course, rituals for making wealth, and by praying to Zambala, the god of wealth, and so forth. But we have no millionaires or billionaires amongst Tibetans. But then in the other parts of the world, they don't do these prayers. But then there are millionaires and billionaires. But maybe Zambala and Vaishravana themselves are maybe billionaires or millionaires. But amongst Tibetans, we don't have billionaires. So what we can be proud of is the Buddhist, the epistemology, the Buddhist tradition that we have. And so this is something that we can be considered to be our pride. And so the athletes, of course, mainly are focused on making their own name and having some honor and awards. So we need to be proud of our culture and tradition, and also our language and script, and which of course the script is modeled on the Indian script. And then we have translation in our own language of the epistemology and Buddhist literature, and when you look from this angle, then we can see the value of our own language. And regarding the modern subjects like science and so forth, we need to make more progress, and so that we can go in par with other cultures. And so we, of course, through the translations of text, science books in science, we are actually enriching our own language by increasing the vocabulary, science vocabulary. And therefore, through the effort and hard work of many people, of course, we should feel proud of ourselves. And so, as a result of our making contribution to the world through our culture, it is not we are not doing it for the purpose of propagating or converting people to Buddhism, but by sharing our tradition, we can actually steer people away from materialistic way of life, because of which there are lots of problems that are happening in the world. And therefore, if we could make some contribution, the reason why we think of contributing to the world from our culture and tradition is because nobody wants suffering, but wants happiness. And this we can actually, in this matter, we can make some contribution. And then even the scientists have found now that if you're compassionate and have good heart, then you also are calm. You have a calm mind, and because of that, there's peace of mind, and then there is peace in family and the society and so forth. And so this is something which is very valuable for all of us. And so when we think about altruism, this is something which we value as Tibetans for generations, and now the scientists are actually verifying the benefit of altruism through their own research and experiments. And therefore, I've been talking about secular ethics, because the reason why I'm talking about this is because of the scientific findings of the benefit of secular ethics and its the values. And so our discussions with scientists, the goal is to serve others, and to serve others in accordance with their mental dispositions. And something, if we can actually explain to people and show the examples from our practical experiences, then it would be really good to help others. And therefore, we have these discussions with scientists. So the traditional way of explaining Dharma in Tibet, and where people are taken for granted to be Buddhists, is not fit in modern contemporary times. The way the Indian classic masters have actually written their text is we have to follow that pattern. For example, there's difference between how Master Atisha wrote his Lamp for the Path to Enlightenment in Tibet, and following that tradition, we have the Lamrim, the Stages of the Path tradition and texts. And now what we need today is how the classical Indian texts were written, which were written within the atmosphere of where there were so many different traditions that challenge the Buddhists.
Many of you expressed to me, it's a complete satisfaction. So I'm very happy. Last year, when I suggested, now next our meeting instead of Dharmasala, the fresh air, Dharmasala much better. But in spite of that, now I suggested, South India, one of the bigger because of monastic institution, may be worthwhile. So now it seems because of the fact itself now demonstrated it's worthwhile, right?
Yes.
Isn't it?
Absolutely.
So little inconvenience there, but worthwhile to sacrifice your own little inconvenience, including myself. So thank you much.
Thank you.
So now I'm looking forward our sort of meeting, of course, in America and also in Dharamsala within this year, and then also in some different places.
Different parts
now
of the world.
I'm looking forward, as we already discussed now, according our sort of vision or according our sort of the plan. Right? So I'm looking forward these things. But then also possible, you see, some of these sort of big monasteries after 2 years or 1 year or 2 years, that also you see possible. So thank you.
Thank you, Your Holiness. If I might, I'll join my few words to your words. As I look out over the people who are here, and I also imagine myself a few hundred meters down the road to the others who are also watching this, our last session. I think of the many thousands of people who have already benefited by the conversations that we've had. I think also of those who have been watching online. This has been streamed to many tens of thousands of people around the world who are also trying to engage with exactly the same problems and issues that we are working on here. So it's a great privilege and honor to be, in some small way, a contributor to the engagement of science and contemplative traditions of the sort that Your Holiness and all of those who are here represent. But this morning, we come to a close of this historic occasion in the meeting between modern science and Buddhist thought on this extraordinary wide range of topics that span from relativity theory and quantum mechanics, which still are difficult for me, Your Holiness. It's not just you and others. We're all puzzled by their remarkable predictions and experiments. And then the work of Richie and the other scientists around this table with regards to neuroscience and the study of consciousness, they all came great distances to be with you and with your colleagues and scholars here, and we're delighted to have come and have joined with you to explore the profound implications of our two views for one another, for ourselves and our world. We came at your kind invitation, and we hope that our contributions have in some small measure contributed to the monastic community of aspiring monks and nuns, to the new educational project that you are launching with the help of such able colleagues. We hope that we have made our contribution as well. Your hospitality has been gracious and generous. I want to thank in particular the monastery which has helped us in Khenpo Rinpoche, the abbot. I want to thank also the Library of Tibetan Works and Archives in Geshe Lakdor, who has been a wonderful co-host. I want to thank also the Dalai Lama Trust here in India, in Jampala, who has been a great help through their generous support, and to thank also Barry and Connie, who have been a support through many years, but especially also in this deep and profound conversation. A great thanks and deep bow of gratitude to all of you, and to all of you for your gracious hospitality. I also want to name a few people who have been essential to making this possible from our side, just so Your Holiness has a picture of who it is that's really done much of this hard work. And I'd like to start with our board of directors. There are several of them here. I'll begin with the wonderful woman on my right, Diana Chapman-Walsh, and Tanya Singer, who has also recently joined from Europe. They also have been part of our board. Rip Gillane, who is our vice chair of our board of directors. Richie Davidson, who is known so well to you. Mathieu Ricard has been a great friend, but not board member, but occasionally an advisor. And then, of course, our chair, known to you very well, Tunjin Jimpa. So those are members of our board who are here. There are many others who are not, and extend their good wishes to you. I want also to identify those people on our staff who have come this long way. We've left a few behind. They're watching on the computer. We know that for sure. I want to, as I name you, I'd like to have you stand. So Tom, I think you're back there. Tom Roca, who's been a man for every purpose. Ned Dunn, please stand. Ned has been our tech support assistant. Dr. Wendy Hasenkamp. Wendy, where are you? Wendy has been working on all aspects of the scientific program, a neuroscientist herself who works with us. Jackie DeFelice. Jackie has been my constant companion on these trips and has worked tirelessly on all aspects of this and many other projects. But especially I want to thank Heather Lee Lohr. Is Heather here? Who has been handling literally thousands of details to make it possible for us to come here and to get home safely. Thank you all, board and staff, from my heart. I want to thank you very much. But our greatest debt of gratitude goes to you, Your Holiness. You stand, as I see it, at a crossroads. The crossroads perhaps are numerous. They are from the past into the future. They are between science and the contemplative spiritual tradition of which you are such a great representative, the Tibetan Buddhist lineage that you have inherited. You did not seek this job. You were chosen as a child. It's an amazing choice. So, you stand at the crossroads of these two worlds, and I've seen you standing there for quite a long time. It's one where the world of great philosophical and spiritual lineage of Tibetan Buddhism is joined to the other of science, of physics, cosmology, neuroscience, and consciousness. We can no longer afford to segregate these two traditions, these two powerful parts of our civilization, these two streams of human endeavor. And for decades you have faithfully engaged with science, as you say, with us, but also with von Weizsäcker, David Bohm, and others before we even came on the picture. You've engaged with science first, as you described it, out of your own personal interest. But then you recognized that your community here could benefit by that same kind of engagement. But you didn't stop there. You were open to engaging with us. And as a consequence, not only has your personal interest expanded to become the interest of your community, but it is something which has enriched the entire scientific community, and especially, I would say, the younger members of that community. Thousands and thousands of young scientists in the United States, thousands more in Europe, long to find their way to this crossroads at which you have stood for so many years. They too have an inner aspiration as well as an outer technical knowledge, an inner aspiration to live an undivided life, a life where their own inner values, meaning, and purpose, you could say their spiritual life, is joined to their scientific striving. I was one such person 40 years ago. I know there are thousands that are out there today. The world needs exemplars, models, people who stood there in partnership, in friendship, as you said. So in your person, you have consistently and faithfully sought the means to bring these two worlds together, not only to benefit your community, but as I say, to benefit all. And this reflects, as I see it, your commitment to the bodhisattvic way of life that speaks not of personal benefit, but of the benefit to all human beings, indeed to all sentient beings. I think you know that on the one hand, I'm not a Buddhist, and yet I share your deepest spiritual aspirations, even into the next life. So for over 40 years, I have attempted in my own much more modest way to live that.
Even next life, remain non-believer, but as a true scientist, but at the same time, you see, involved Buddhist sort of idea.
Yeah, perhaps a non-believer in the sense of a non-Buddhist, but a believer in the sense that spiritual life for me is as important as it is to you. I believe in that deep contemplative spirituality. I believe in the power and importance of meditation. I know that from those many years of sitting and practicing. And I see no opposition to modern science. I see that these can fructify and benefit one another. So it's been one of the great joys of my life to join you at that crossroads, and perhaps to stand with you for a time, to labor with you faithfully in the years ahead. We bring science and your contemplative philosophy in service of humanity. In addition to being researchers, we're also teachers, because we also recognize that the future belongs to those young people, those who will follow us. Many of whom are participating in this meeting, and many of whom are still not yet born. We do the work that they may flourish. For me, that work began with you in 1997. We had a brief encounter prior with Bob Thurman, but in 1997 I came to Dharamsala, and we spoke together about the new physics and cosmology. And then in 2003, we continued in a new vein. We went to MIT. We had our first public meeting of Mind and Life. That was quite special. Many thousands of people, both in the auditorium and then through, again, the internet, took part in that meeting and could see the importance of the investigation of the mind, which Ritchie reported some of his first scientific results, and others there, Nobel laureates on the one side, deep contemplative practitioners, Buddhist scholars on the other, and the entire audience felt the power and possibility and potential of that meeting at America's foremost technical university, introduced by the president of that university. It was another historic occasion where what had been kept separate for so long stood together on the stage of modern science. For, again, not selfish interests, but to the benefit of others. As a memento of that journey, can I have that package of 3 books that are there? That's it. As a memento of that journey, I give you, perhaps you have these already, the Mind and Life book, which comes from that new physics and cosmology, the 2003 conference. And also as a humble offering, I give you my most recent book on meditation. Not that I expect you to learn anything from it. But it was part of my journey to come to that crossroads, Your Holiness. Thank you. Two years ago, at the close of the conference that Jim Doty at Stanford University organized, and he was kind enough, with Jimpa's, I think, encouragement, to invite me to help facilitate that meeting. At the close of that meeting, you spoke of friendship. Nothing, I think, is perhaps more precious to us than friendship. The French philosopher Simone Weil says that nothing keeps the human eye fixed ever more firmly on the divine than friendship. Through our friends, through our friends we, you could say in her language, come to know God. May the friendships formed and strengthened this week endure and flourish. May they become the firm, good soil from which the fruits of science and contemplative philosophy spring. Friendships endure, perhaps through many lifetimes. I do hope that our work, the work we do, the relationships we have made will likewise endure. You know, I began my talk, my very first talk, with the picture of you as a young lad, as a young man, looking through a telescope and reasoning concerning the moon and the sun and their relationship. Your gaze has broadened, but your vibrant and joyful lifestyle, your interest has not diminished. And in this sense, you are as young as ever. Your personal interest in science has also broadened to include not only Tibetan monastics, but also scientists such as myself and those who are with us today. In the remaining years of your life, I hope that you can find time at once again to look through a telescope and a microscope and a functional MRI and perhaps do a couple of quantum optics experiments and explore all the methods that science has now available for your enjoyment and for your inquiring mind. And I hope you bring that philosophical and logical capacity that you've demonstrated so amply here to those research projects. And finally, I look forward one day to reading your name as co-author on a scientific paper published in a prestigious journal to the delight of scientists and the Tibetan Buddhist community alike. Thank you, Your Holiness. It's been great to be with you. Geshe Laktor.
Without taking much time, at the very outset, I would like to thank all the presenters, scholars, and all those other guests who have come from far-off places to a place where there is not much needed facilities. I am full of gratitude to you, not because of just your being present here and present a paper, but more because of your willingness to share your insight, your knowledge, your humility, and your willingness to collaborate with His Holiness's initiatives and His Holiness's efforts. We are deeply, deeply grateful, and on behalf of the Dalai Lama Trust and Library of Tibetan Works and Archives, I thank all of you, our friends and guests, from the depth of our heart. 벽에 돌 signi sum shushawach. Dalai Lama Trust Tepsadang, any Pegi Penjo Kang, Taming Don and Azutri, looks Kodik Cheva Songdudi, any Lamlong, Chembudan, Tunde Yawaja Jongson, Samba Chung, and so Jangurum Shingi, Gunghida, Tujikatin Ten Chongwachire, and it was a Lagda Cheve Kavla, Tanganzu sort of Michi doing the Tongachi or Madogi, the Legat House of Chungela, me Mango, Huji Kale Majonasan, young Matovich. She doing me relation and mean. Not Cotizu Semado, Goya Semado de Penanganyam Ruching, that Drepung Loseling down, and then Drepung Gomang, that Laji down, Tana Shingi, Tanzani, Tan Shavigi, that Kusap, Chejanga Sojun Chigiore, the Sojo de Limit the Ye, Munarampe Masig, Simsor Simba da Gabushun, the purpose of the Tunji and Kogab, the Karina Chitus are Samarach. Lega Pario to you made the Karachios and Nado, Gihelangache was a genebed, how late Gazurchum, any day go Lichidus Musalagda, do Temple Hamdi Ruyore, Piminjon down soon to be yore, this you the ending is Sojung Samala, Mingwiche Mogotone, Tuji Shueda. Tanashi and the Boloseling down, and a Gomatazanine, that care much give you Chanzu, Saint Samegi, any you could Shella Kodisi, that was a little sunny meeting. That's what can bed and minute 11, and a colelo sunny meeting. Read the inner depede, Pe Masigi, Carsoreda, Tona down, Jabjordan, Nele, Kodik Pemasia, which is on Anthony, any Tazani, Kermuchi Ubelene, Samala, Nintabane, Tuji Shui. Tana Shingi, Kundusobo, the Chibuana, the Harvard, the Sunkianagi, Kagda, Sunny, the Tunji Mazum. Kushuksa the Kansachi in the Kangishambu Tigioza, and the Shadi Tanzani, that can't much Ube, any Pagishu, Kansachi and the Tadik Pemasi Yakunasha, teach you the young Adu, she teach her any Legamang which Lela Chenzo, the names and the cook of this on the Tuji Shueda. That Dana she knew to Juvaina, that Magisham Magene Chene, Kali Huji Jabding, Tangazu de get a Hevel class, Nimenal charge in a college of the Mangujo, to someone Ning Tabane Tuji Shueda. And the Hana King of the Hijagita, Ujindang, Legun, the Hana King, the Chodakana Yumeta, Jahargita, police Mangushigi, Charlie, the Tunjurna Yore, the Hana King of the Pemigi, the Kuzung, the Nin, the Sanding, Legacy, the Mango Yore, the Jondorduna, and the song to Tradi Yumela, the Chodaka Mango Jigni, Gunde Tazansugi, the Tuna Nansene, any Gungil Madame Cheneta, Karsor de Musta, Somi Mangushigi. To Tadala live to the Kodisha, the Tugur Mangona, your tissue, any egg, that Sangmal and Tabane, and to chase Shui.
Geshe Lokdor, it has been.
Go.
It has been our pleasure and our privilege to be here with you. The material comforts to which we return now, we will be home in a day or so, are nothing compared to the wealth that we have found here in the clarity of your minds and the compassion in your hearts. And we thank you from ours for the privilege of the time we've spent with you.
Yeah, this Jurdarante. Shugdangandi, Sixty Managing Dutch.
At the end, in conclusion, His Holiness would like to say a few lines of Tibetan prayer, and he has asked me to translate the content of that line, so which I will do very briefly. The prayer runs something like the following: May all mother and parent sentient beings achieve happiness. May all forms of may all suffering sentient beings
overcome suffering.
come to
这是道德动不上是。
may all suffering sentient beings be freed from their pain and suffering. May,
成就什么康呢？苏许鬼没能
and wherever they may be, may the aspirations and prayers of the Bodhisattvas come to reality.
Bodhisattva means here, kasoda person or being.
Chanju Semba Kandijala Kogures Labaina Tugi Chanere, Ngagi Chanere, Sungi Chanere, Gugu Chani, Tajik to Champagne to Biala, Shaking the Kansa, Dindijila, Chanju Semba Sigore.
他们是大多东巴的长久三巴康纳苏是吧的啦，关键嘛都有些。Thank you.